And finally, I want to provide you an update regarding CDC's guidance for fully vaccinated people. Over the course of the pandemic, we are continuously gathering data and evidence to inform our guidance and decision-making. We now have numerous reports in the literature that demonstrate the safety and real-world effectiveness of the authorized vaccines. On this slide, there are 3 recently published studies, one from Israel published in the Journal of the American Medical Association, or JAMA, on the top, and 2 from the United States, both published in CDC's Morbidity and Mortality Weekly Report, which all show that COVID-19 vaccines work. In Israel, there was a demonstrated 97% vaccine effectiveness against symptomatic and 86% effectiveness against asymptomatic infection in over 5,000 healthcare workers. In the United States, vaccines were 90% effective against any infection in nearly 4,000 healthcare workers and 94% effective against hospitalizations from COVID-19 in an evaluation across 24 hospitals in 14 states. Additionally, we are accumulating data that our authorized vaccines are effective against the variants that are circulating in this country. On this slide, you can see a study published just last week that demonstrates how effective the Pfizer vaccine is against the common circulating variants in the United States, B.1.1.7, as well as other variants like B.1.351. Additional studies confirm that the Moderna and Johnson & Johnson vaccines are also effective against circulating variants. Finally, we know that in the rare event that people get infected after a vaccine, the resulting infection is more likely to have a lower viral load, be shorter in duration, and likely less risky of transmission to others. Considering all of these factors, the data on vaccine effectiveness, the science on their ability to protect against circulating variants, and our growing understanding of the low risk of transmission to others, combined with universal access to vaccines for those 12 and older, today, CDC is updating our guidance for fully vaccinated people. Anyone who is fully vaccinated can participate in indoor and outdoor activities, large or small, without wearing a mask or physical distancing. If you are fully vaccinated, you can start doing the things that you had stopped doing because of the pandemic. We have all longed for this moment when we can get back to some sense of normalcy. Based on the continuing downward trajectory of cases, the scientific data on the performance of our vaccines, and our understanding of how the virus spreads, that moment has come for those who are fully vaccinated. Now, if you are immune compromised, you will most definitely want to talk to your doctor before giving up your mask. Also, locations such as healthcare facilities will continue to follow their specific infection control recommendations. And lastly, this past year has shown us that this virus can be unpredictable. So if things get worse, there is always a chance we may need to make change to these recommendations. But we know that the more people are vaccinated, the less cases we will have and the less chance of a new spike or additional variants emerging. If you develop symptoms, you should put your mask back on and get tested right away. The science is also very clear about unvaccinated people. You remain at risk of mild or severe illness, of death, or of spreading the disease to others. You should still mask, and you should get vaccinated right away.
What did you take away from this? Because there's still a lot of gray areas that have to be navigated.
Right. It's come into clearer focus, but there's still a little blurriness around the edges here. It's a big day. I mean, overall, I think the CDC, what they're saying now reflects the science that has been emerging now for the past several weeks. Really, since we started vaccinating people en masse and collecting real-world data, it became very clear that not only were vaccines really good at keeping people from getting sick, they were also really good at keeping people from getting infected, because you could be infected without getting sick. But then the third component was that even if you did get an infection, even if you tested positive for COVID after having been vaccinated, it was very unlikely you'd ever develop enough virus in your body to then transmit it to others. Those are the three components. Not likely to get sick, not likely to get infected, and very unlikely to transmit the virus to somebody else if you did. So that's why this guidance now says if you're vaccinated, you really don't need to wear a mask indoors or outdoors, gatherings large or small, as you said. The blurriness I think that you're alluding to, which I completely agree with, is how do you know then? You go into a public place of some sort, you're vaccinated, so you're okay, protected, very well protected against getting sick. There may be other people who are not wearing masks. Are they also vaccinated? How do you know? Are they in compliance? How's that all going to sort out? I mean, unless you have to show proof of vaccination, that's going to be challenging. The other thing that Dr. Walensky did not answer, despite being asked twice, once by Caitlin and once again by Kristen Welker, was why still masks on things like airplanes then? If you're saying you don't need to wear masks if you're vaccinated indoors, outdoors, gatherings large and small, why airplanes still? There's still a little bit of, it's still not clear to me exactly what's driving some of those recommendations.
Sanjay, despite all of that, I just want to take a moment to mark this minute, because I found myself welling up when Dr. Walensky was talking and she said we have an exciting announcement, and I still find myself welling up even right now because, you and I talked every morning, during the past year about how many more Americans were going to die, what was going to happen, were we going to make it to the vaccines, were we all going to survive, what was going to happen. And 580,000 Americans didn't make it to this day, this day that they say that we can throw these away, that we've all been clinging to. And here we are. I mean, we just didn't know when this day would come, but it feels a little bit like it's over today, doesn't it?
You're getting me emotional too, Allison. I mean, gosh, I got goosebumps as you're talking. I mean, it's a really important day. It is, and I hear what you're saying, because can we say that and still be really honest about the trauma and the tragedy we've been through? Significant. I mean, this should not feel like in any way that minimizes what has happened over this past year. I completely agree, and it's not over in the sense that you well know that there's 34,000 people still became infected today. 600 people still died. I mean, I know those are much smaller numbers than we have been talking about, but 600 people died today of this disease, a disease that didn't exist at the end of 2019. In the United States, 600 people died. So, we're not through it yet, but it does feel, I agree with you, very momentous. And I think, another thing is that as hard as it was to get people to do the science-based things at the beginning of this pandemic, we should not make the mistake of making it hard to stop doing things that are no longer necessary and not following the science again. We got to follow the science whichever direction it takes us. It tells us to do things that we're not comfortable doing in the beginning, but now it says we don't need to do things, and we got to follow that science as well.
So let's pick up right there, because this is the recommendation from the CDC. The states, the businesses have to now implement these. What does a business owner do who has been requiring masks to come in and has kept the tables separated and social distancing, when now half the customers come in, or a third come in and say, I don't have to wear a mask. The CDC says I don't have to socially distance. What are they supposed to do now in their responsibility to mitigate the spread of the virus?
That is the blurriness around the edges, Victor, that we're talking about. They've sort of left it on these communities and these private organizations now to sort of handle that. Are they going to require proof of vaccination in order to not be compliant with their rules that they've had in place for so long? I don't know. I think that's going to be a difficult transition period because, as you point out, first of all, there's still tens of thousands of people becoming infected every day, but there's only about a third of the country that has been fully vaccinated at this point. Hopefully the numbers will continue to grow, and this may serve as some incentive. But that is, I think it's going to be different in different places. There may be places that still say, hey, look, you know what? We're erring on the side of safety still. We're still going to, at least indoors, say we're telling people they need to wear masks because we don't know if you've been vaccinated or not. I think that's also what we saw some of Dr. Walensky's hesitation when she was asked twice about airplanes. She said, we will update our guidance on that soon. So they're drawing these lines here still. We're going through this period of transition. It's not completely sort of lifted, you know, in terms of masks, because there are those sorts of scenarios that you're describing.
Oh my. Oh my. I want to see if we have anything else over this before I get like incredibly like stupid. I mean, if you look at my feed here, you can see where I do my shit, right? Let's just go with let's see what CDC mask update. Let's see what we have here. Well, this was 2 hours ago. Let's see what happens.
Thank you for taking my question. I am wondering what this means about social distancing, what this means about your guidelines for schools and workplaces, and also what you think this mask change might mean for incentives, whether it will incentivize people to get vaccinated, or for people who had been resistant, now they have no reason to get vaccinated.
Dr. Walensky.
Thank you, Tamara, for that question. I want to be clear that we follow the science here. While this may serve as incentive for some people to get vaccinated, that is not the purpose. Our purpose here is, as a public health agency, to follow the science and to follow where we are with regard to the science and what is safe for individuals to do. Of course, this guidance is really just for individuals who are vaccinated and what they can do, safely do. We have work ahead of us in terms of updating our guidance with regard to all other settings, as you know, schools and camps, and that will be the work that we have ahead of us.
Next question.
Cheyenne Haslett, ABC.
Hi, thanks for taking my question. You mentioned the science, and we know it's been about 16 days since the CDC last updated its guidance on masks. We also saw heavy criticism in the last week for moving too slow. Has the science really changed in 16 days, or is this a response to public criticism?
Thank you for that question. So several things have happened in the last 2 weeks. In the last 2 weeks, the cases in this country have dropped by a third. In the last 2 weeks, we've had increasing available vaccine, and we now have available and eligible people between the ages of 12 and 15. And we have had a coalescence of more science that has emerged just in the last week. The science has been in 3 areas. One is the effectiveness of the vaccines in general in real-world populations. One is the effectiveness against, against variants, which was just published last week. And then the effectiveness in preventing transmissibility.
Great. Someone get some water. Okay, next question.
Caitlin Collins, CNN.
Thanks so much. My question is for you, Dr. Walensky. You said regardless of gathering size and even if indoors, you don't have to wear a mask. I noticed that you did not list exceptions beyond healthcare providers, I believe. So does this mean vaccinated people can take their mask off on an airplane?
So right now, thank you for that question, Kaylin. Right now, we still have the requirement to wear masks when you travel on buses, trains, and other forms of public transportation. And we are, as well as airports and stations. CDC, as I mentioned, is going to continue to update our guidance as policy and the science emerges. Right now, for travel, we are asking people to continue to wear their masks.
Next question.
Let's go to Mona Austin at the Urban Radio Report.
Thanks so much for taking my question. I'm wondering if you've given any thought to extra measures to help African American parents and perhaps embedded fear over getting their children now vaccinated, since there was such hesitation in the African American community throughout the pandemic.
Dr. Walensky, you want to start with that?
Yeah, thank you for that question. We recognize that we have had to do extra outreach in many different kinds of communities, the trusted messenger campaigns that we are doing, having vaccine available in local pharmacies, having vaccine available in local pediatricians. And with now the availability of vaccine for 12 to 15-year-olds, we are absolutely conducting that extra outreach, not only for parents to want the vaccine themselves, but for parents to want to get their children vaccinated as well. Absolutely.
Let me just add a couple of measures. First of all, while vaccines are great and they're having a massive impact, All questions that people have are reasonable, whether it's for themselves or their children. And as individual communities have very specific questions, that's why we've created the Health Equity Task Force, and that's why we've created a whole set of people in communities that can answer questions. The only thing that people should make sure they do is ask a trusted physician, ask a clergy, ask a pharmacist, ask someone reliable and trustworthy about getting vaccinated. Don't go online to some social media site and get whatever you get. And that's the job that we're doing here, is to make sure those questions can get answered. Next question.
Tom and Christopher, Mediaite.
Hello. Yes, thank you for doing this. My question is for Dr. Fauci. I heard you say to Gail King, she said that people were looking at her funny for wearing a mask, even though she's vaccinated. And I was wondering if you had anything to say to people who have been vaccinated and still want to wear masks in situations that the CDC says are low risk. Is there anything wrong with that? And should people be side-eyeing them?
No, not at all. I mean, people have to make their own personal choice. What you heard from Dr. Lewinsky is the recommendation based on science. And that's just a recommendation. And when people want to do that, they at least have the science behind them. There's absolutely nothing wrong with an individual who has a certain level for risk aversion. As we know, the risk is extremely low of getting infected if you're vaccinated, whether you're indoors or outdoors. But there are those people who don't want to take that bit of a risk. And there's nothing wrong with that, and they shouldn't be criticized.
Dr. Walensky, anything you want to add to that?
And I just absolutely agree. People have to make these decisions based on their own comfort.
And look, habits are hard to break. So people may take time to adjust. That's fine. As a rule, we are anti-side-eyeing. Next question.
Michelle Sindor at PBS.
Hi, thanks so much for taking my question. I have a question on what this means for fully vaccinated people that are entering spaces where they don't know if the people that are around them are fully vaccinated, i.e. if you're going to a possible concert or a restaurant, is it okay to take off your mask even if you're surrounded by people who aren't vaccinated? And why keep masks as a requirement for people that are traveling if it's not in small or big gatherings?
Yeah, thank you for that. So the science demonstrates that if you are fully vaccinated, you are protected. It is the people who are not fully vaccinated in those settings, who might not be wearing a mask, who are not protected. And it is those people that we are encouraging to get vaccinated and to wear a mask and to physically distance. So if you're vaccinated in those settings, you certainly could wear a mask if you wanted to, but we are saying in those settings, based on the science, that it is safe. We are going to be looking at all of our guidance and updating all of our guidance, including our travel guidance, and in the shortly as we do an overview now that we have this new guidance out there.
Next question.
Kristen Welker, NBC.
Hi, thank you so much for taking the question. Can you talk about how this new guidance squares with the fact that you're still concerned about the variants that could be in this country and other countries? And can you speak to this report that there are 7 apparently New York Yankees members of the coaching and support staff that have tested positive for COVID-19 despite the fact that they were vaccinated with the J&J vaccine? Should people be concerned about that headline? What do we take away from that? Thank you.
Thank you, Kristen. With regard to the variants, we are now sequencing about 30 to 35,000 samples a week. We have a really good window as to what variants are circulating here. About 7 to 10% of all virus we're now sequencing. And we now have data that shows not only in the lab, but in real populations, in cohorts, that our vaccines work against the variants that are circulating here. We will consistently be looking for new variants and we'll be testing for new variants. We have not found any yet that suggest that the vaccines do not work against them. With regard to the Yankees, we obviously need to learn more about that situation. My understanding is that 6 of the 7 infections were indeed asymptomatic infections, and we will look to more data from that report to understand what happened there. All of the real-world data we've seen that's been in the published literature, large studies in many different settings, have demonstrated that those vaccines are effective, have a high effectiveness against disease.
Next question.
Last question. Let's go to Zeke Miller at the AP.
Thanks for doing this. I was hoping you might be able to outline what is the federal government's message to people who are not fully vaccinated right now. What should they be doing while their fully vaccinated peers and family members may be taking off their masks? Number one. And number two, what is the message to businesses, schools, others, anyone else in a setting where it's hard to determine who is and who is not fully vaccinated in terms of monitoring response or bringing their patrons into compliance with CDC guidelines?
Thank you. So my first message is if you are not fully vaccinated, you are not fully protected. And so you need to be continuing to wear your mask and practicing all of the mitigation strategies that we've been discussing before. And then, of course, importantly, get fully vaccinated. So text 438-829, find a vaccine near you, and get yourself fully vaccinated. So that's really the first message if you're not fully vaccinated. With regard to what businesses, communities, schools, we of course will be updating our guidance in many of these areas very shortly. But importantly, I think we really need to understand that this country is very heterogeneous. It's not uniform. And so these are going to have to be these decisions are going to have to be made at the local level. And I would encourage counties and localities to look at how much vaccine they have, how many people have been vaccinated, look at how many cases are in their area, and to make those decisions with that information in mind.
Thank you all, and have a great day.
Whoa. That ended rather abruptly, didn't it? While we're waiting for Lou to join us, it's a great day today, and something we should be very happy about, right? If you're immunized, you actually did things the right way, and you weren't an asshole. Congratulations. We can now pretty much do whatever we want to do without masks. If you were an asshole and you're going to continue to be an asshole, you're just not going to wear your mask now. Well, let's face it, you weren't anyhow. I got to be honest. I'm kind of between. I kind of have 2 minds about this, right? On one hand, I'm very happy because for some of us, for a lot of us, we actually did things the right way. We wore masks. We got our immunizations. We got our shots. Some of us got sick on our second ones and had to deal with it for a day, right? But we did it in order to be able to be with our loved ones again, to be able to hang around people that we know and love and want to be with. But being the old school type of person that I am, I'm a bit melancholy, and the reason I'm a bit melancholy is because I busted a nut, and my wife busted a nut, and my son is still busting a nut to get that immunization, and we don't do it for us. We do it so we're not infecting the people around us. And I got to be honest, and I know it's petty, folks. Honest to God, I know it's petty. I do. I know it's petty. But there's a part of me that's kind of pissed off that I had to shoulder this, and people around me and people of good conscience had to shoulder this whenever a whole hell of a lot of other people just chose not to. Don't get me wrong. I'm grateful. I'm grateful as hell that those of us who are vaccinated don't have to worry about wearing masks anymore. But God damn it, we could have been through this 6 months ago or a year ago if these same fuck ups just would have done what we did. Lou, I'm sorry. I'm both excited and pissed off.
You know what? I caught the gist of what you were saying. Okay, so we were at full force when Biden took over, pandemic.
Right.
How many hundreds of thousands died that didn't need to? You had so many people infected. And it just was, if dumb fuck would have done this a year ago, we would have probably been out of it last fall.
You know, the thing is,
we would have been out of it if he would have done, we would have had less people sick that would have needed vaccinated. So we would have already been out months ago.
I know. And how many people died in the meantime? And it is the selfishness of these people. And they're good. And I know it's an idealistic thing. And trust me, whatever I say, I'm very happy that we're finally coming through this. And you know, we kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel, right? And that light's getting brighter and brighter. But it pisses me off that we're at May 13th of 2020 or 2021, when all of this could have happened in September of 2020 if these assholes who are now going to benefit from what we have done just would have worn a fucking mask.
You would have had probably
How many people would still be alive now? How many people would have mothers and fathers and grandparents and kids and everything else if these assholes just would have been willing to do what you and I and most of the people watching our channel would have done to fucking begin with?
Probably 500,000.
500,000 people.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
Because where the early deaths was urban areas, high concentration, high density population.
Terrible.
But the people that were out and away like us could have mitigated it long ago.
And all you're doing is looking out for the people you see.
It's as simple as that. Your neighbor. So you hate your neighbor.
Well, I mean, do you hate all of your neighbors?
Well, it's like because of assholes like Tucker Carlson owning libs, it's just so many gullible and willfully ignorant. I don't even know how to describe it. You know, it's just, it boggles my mind.
And I'm not trying to sit here and make us out to be, you know, things that we're not, or people that we're not, right? I'm not trying to do that. But what I'm saying is, can you imagine how much sooner, how many people would not have been devastated if half of them would have been willing to do what we did, which was just put on a mask. That was it. Just put on a mask. You go someplace, put a freaking mask on. It wasn't like we were asking them to give up a kidney. Just wear a piece of cloth over your mouth. It's horrible. These people should be ashamed of themselves. I'm telling you, Lou, I'm telling you. There's a special place in hell for these assholes.
Oh, I believe it.
I'm telling you there is. Because there's no excuse. And it's not like I want to say that because, you know, we bore this burden. Right? This is a burden all of us should have borne. Every one of us. It's not that hard. I mean, it's not. You're going someplace, put a mask on. We'd have been through this stuff. We could have been having Christmas with folks. Right?
Yeah.
We're having Easter with folks. Except these assholes, oh, my rights, my rights.
Yeah, the same people carrying guns thinking they're going to stop a mass shooting are too inconvenienced to wear a mask that stops a mass pandemic.
Inconvenienced. That's what it was. And they made it sound like they were shouldering a burden that no human being should ask to be shouldering, right? All you're doing is putting a mask on your fucking mouth. That's it. How hard can it be?
Yeah, here's one. It was could have, yeah, at least it could have been 3 weeks ago now. I had a part that came in the mail and I ran and dropped it off to color sample to a customer. All right, so I go in the office, I had my mask on, and they're all like, oh, don't worry about a mask. I said, well, I'm not, I'm vaccinated. Oh, we're not getting that. Guess whose whole office is shut down from last week right now?
Yeah, right?
All three of them.
All of them.
4 of them. Sicker than dogs.
Because they all chose to listen to Tucker instead of science. Science doesn't lie. How hard can it be? It doesn't lie.
Science doesn't lie. Fox News does. As simple as that.
It's not hard. Okay? Science will tell you 1 and 1 is 2. And it doesn't care if you like it or not.
Opinions are not facts. Facts are facts.
And yet these clowns call us snowflakes.
Do you know what facts are now? Democratic talking points.
Yeah.
Did you see Jim Jordan?
I did not, and I don't. Honest to God, I'm a wrestler. I wanted to punch. I want to punch him in the throat.
Yeah, Liz Cheney was repeating Democratic talking points. Yeah, it was the truth.
Well, you know, there's a lot about that I want to talk about.
Yeah.
She's been stripped of her number 3. She's no longer a leader. Yada yada yada. Lou, does it matter?
You know what? The way that party's acting right now, I was thinking, no, it doesn't matter, but I'm thinking it does. You know, I don't care what you think of her politics and what you accused her of in the past, and she was Dick Cheney's daughter. But guess what? You got to stand with her 100% right now. Whether you're a Democrat, independent, or anybody with morals and dignity and integrity.
100 Republicans.
Doesn't matter. Did you see her quote? She says, pretty much over my dead body will Trump ever get to the Oval Office again. You just pissed off a woman that has a lot of connections and still has a lot of the good conservative connections. Whether it be back to the Lincoln Project or whoever, and a lot of your traditional Republicans.
A lot of was it 100 Republicans are threatening to break ties with their party?
You know what? It might be the straw that did it with her now. You know, and just watching, would you think those 100 are ready to sacrifice the next election or two to get rid of this scourge? You know, I may be liberal as hell, but you know what? You got to have truthful conservative balance to balance out a country a little bit, or strong liberals to balance it a little bit.
How many times have you heard me say the last thing I want is for everybody in the country to agree with me?
Yeah.
Right?
Because I'm not always right.
No. I've only been around 53 years. I'm not the person that should be dictating where this country goes. Right? I just know what I believe and what I feel and what I think is right. And I have had from time to time legitimate conservatives who have changed my opinion on a few things. Not one of them has been a MAGA, I can tell you that. right? But there have been a few here and there over the course of a half a century. There have been a few. So we have 100 of these guys now who are going to break off, or at least are threatening to break off and join and create a new party. Remember how long ago did we sit on this channel and we say it's either going to be the traditional Republicans who broke ranks with the party and created their own, or it was going to be the MAGAs that did it? How long? We've been saying this for how long, Lou? 4 months, 5, 6 months?
It's been a while.
It's been a long time.
You know, and at that time we weren't sure, but with everything that's happened, now you know who's going to break.
Yeah, it's going to be the traditionalists. Who wins?
You know what? I think it's going to depend on district and primary.
I think, yeah, and I agree with you. My gut feeling is you're going to see a reversal now. You're going to see the House probably be more whatever MAGA controlled, but the Senate be more Democratic. Democratic controlled, because the traditional Republicans and the MAGAs are going to cut their own throats, and the Democrat, because now this is statewide. This isn't precinct now. This is statewide. They're going to end up killing themselves, and the Democrats just gonna they have the inside track. That's my view.
Well, you have a Senate race coming here in Pennsylvania and our neighbor in Ohio. Do you think those who's throwing their rings in Republican now? I can't think of his last name. Steve, he ran for governor. He was a MAGA. You now have the guy that lost to Lamb throw it in. He's a MAGA.
Yep.
Rumor has it Kelly may run. Okay, they're going to run against, I'm going to say Fetterman gets the nod. He's going to, because he has more of a statewide name recognition now. This preaching common sense, and what he says appeals to not only the left, but a lot of the middle plus. I'm saying he wins that race.
I do too.
I think you got a good chance of the other Senate seat in Ohio going Democratic.
Yeah, I do too. I do too.
I'd say idiot in Wisconsin's gone.
Here's the thing, Lou, and I guess I'm kind of wrapping this up a little bit, but I don't mean to be, not by any means, but it seems to me that whenever you're talking statewide, this shit that the MAGAs are doing, I almost want to say they're short-sighted, because they're looking at districts instead of states. Well, that's only good for one chamber of 1/3 of Congress. Everything goes to the Senate and dies. It's always been the case, right? The Senate has been. What do you think Mitch McConnell's feeling right now? Because he's got to feel that his days are numbered.
You would think, and it just surprises me that he hasn't done a little more to try and squelch Trump, knowing these are statewide races in his chamber.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he won't commit one way or the other. Did you see even Brett Baer had him over to Coles on Fox yesterday?
Did he really?
Yes. It just amazed me. And the questions he was asking weren't that tough, and boy, did McConnell evade him. You know what? It even pissed Brett Baer off. You could tell.
That's hard to do.
Yeah. He gave him all the chance in the world to defend Liz Cheney, and he wouldn't do it.
Just to back up, and I'm reading this right now as we speak, okay? I just got this right now. And this is coming from one of my places of employment. And it is well, she's technically my boss. okay, at the county YMCA. In accordance with the guidelines from the CDC and the Pennsylvania Department of Health, effective today, fully vaccinated people do not have to wear a mask or social distance. The masking requirement will still be in place as otherwise provided under the CDC guidelines for unvaccinated individuals until 70% of Pennsylvanians age 18 and older are fully vaccinated. Please note that these new guidelines do not apply to childcare. We will have to wait until OCDEL sends out an update. Please remove all COVID-19 signage in both facilities. If a sign is laminated, please put them in my office, yada, yada, yada. Please be mindful of the services, yada, 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 yada. I'll be sending out a statement to members tomorrow morning, but you may tell them of the state's decision and the wise intention to follow it. So there you go, brother. There it is right there. It's all right there. And of course, you're going to have the assholes who never got vaccinated, who never did a damn thing, who are just going to start walking around without masks now. And I know we're backtracking a little bit, and I apologize, but it just popped up on my phone, and I wanted to show everybody how quickly even some places ass backwards as Lawrence County is moving on this.
You know what?
Honestly, I don't know what to do tomorrow.
You know what? And the Lawrence County new totals for COVID today were 9 or 7.
There were 7 today.
Yeah. So, you know what is we're vaccinated. Yes. You know what? The people that never were and start going out masked, they're still at 50 times the risk we are.
Yeah.
It should say 50. It's about 100.
I almost wonder though, Lou, because it's still kind of a pain in the ass to get a vaccination, right? It's still kind of a pain in the ass, and I think it's kind of a pain in the ass because you have to get it twice, right? With the exception of the J&J one, you need 2, but that's 1/3 of the what we have: the J&J, the Moderna, and the Pfizer, right? Moderna and Pfizer are 2 apiece. J&J is the only one that's 1 apiece. That's 1. Whenever you have an announcement that comes down like this, do you think that deters people from getting the vaccination now?
I'd say some of the fence sitters, it's a possibility.
Right? I mean, if we're going to lift these things, I don't know. You know what, though? It's my total lack of faith in people that I think does it. But as soon as I heard this, as excited as I was, because we finally reached that, and I've been saying now for 2 months that we're further along than our government is telling us. And I don't think it was a nefarious thing by any means. I'm not a conspiracy theorist or anything like that. I just think they were they're being overcautious, and they were erring on the side of caution. But if I'm somebody who hasn't gotten vaccinated yet for whatever reason, or I'm a parent who hasn't had my child vaccinated yet because up until today, or within the last couple of days, 12 and over really couldn't get vaccinated. It was only just recently that 16 or 18 and over could do it. Do they sit there and they say, you know what, I'm just going to go to work, I'm not going to worry about it? And I think that's what has me worried.
I think they're going to try and do something to get other help to get people vaccinated easier, from what I was hearing tonight from Biden, real quick. I forget, they're going to try and, I don't know if they're going to try and do something with government help, National Guard, I don't know what, like to make it easier to get the people that still want it, which they should. They still need to get like the younger people vaccinated. If they're going to go back to school full time next year, they need to get all those 12 to 18-year-olds.
Yeah.
They need to get the college students, because that's where it's going to spread first in the fall, because you're going to be back to football, soccer, the fall sports, volleyballs in the fall, and, whatever else there might be.
Where I really think we messed up, and I'm not exactly sure that we had much of a choice, was we were more than willing, and we bent over backwards to vaccinate the elderly, right? Who were the most vulnerable. Let's be honest, they were. But the people who were going to spread it the most were the college students, and we almost ignored them, right? And I wonder if that, in hindsight, now again, the fact that we didn't have the number of vaccines available had a whole lot to do with the decision. I don't doubt that. But I think the fact that we didn't prioritize them as much as we should have probably prolonged this a little longer than it needed to be. Because I said before, Lou, go to Daytona Beach and just have a tent set up on the beach in one of these places where all the asshole college kids are gonna go do their thing and say, "You want your vaccination? Come and get one. One shot, you're done." The J&J ones, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's right there. And who gives a shit if they get sick the next day, because they're going to be hungover anyhow.
Yeah, you're right.
Right? I think we missed an opportunity there. Now, again, I want to, play the other side of the coin and say, because maybe the doses weren't available, but I still think we missed a hell of an opportunity there. Maybe through no fault of our own, but we still missed a hell of an opportunity. Because it's going to take these guys 5 minutes. Come and get this and go drink the cheap beer again. Go ahead. Have a good time with it. But now you're vaccinated.
Christ, they could give away free drafts.
Right? Yeah, give them a voucher. Right? Give them a voucher for a free beer. Come on, dude. In 1986, I mean, they were 2 cents a draft. I can't imagine they're a whole lot more than that. Right? So you have to go through 20 people in order to even hit $1 or $2. Right? That's free money. That's free. I mean, it's silly. It's just silly. But again, maybe it's, we didn't have the quantity that we had. And do you think there's a blame for that? That we just didn't have the quantity?
You know what? There probably was. You didn't have the quantity. You had 20 million. When you think about it, like we discussed earlier of incompetence, when that vaccine came out, the first 100 million doses were ours, and Trump says we only need 50, didn't put in a reorder, and 20 million of those disappeared.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So by the time, and that was what, November? So late November when it came, when the first shipments went out.
Right.
So by the time Biden got there and triple ordered and said, get the damn shit moving, you were 2 months more into the fray. 2.5 months more almost. Incompetent.
So now we're seeing the gray areas, right? And this I got to be honest, this kind of irritates me a little bit too. Okay, so this is coming from CNN right now. Okay, and we've seen this, right? People vaccinated against the COVID can go without masks indoors and outdoors. Okay, so this is coming from CNN, which we know. We had it on live as we were coming on air. But here's where it gets goofy. Okay. Here's where it gets goofy. Is the very next tab that I open. In New Jersey, masks are still required. Rules remain in New Jersey as Governor Murphy reviews new CDC guidelines. So now the mud is starting to make its way. It's starting to rear its ugly head, so to speak. Well, this is the stuff that makes me crazy. Okay? Are we good or aren't we? Which one is it? We shouldn't be playing this game. You know, I mean, I understand if you recognize how governments, you know, the hierarchy. Okay, it makes sense, but come on, man, we got to do better than this, don't you think? Because all this is doing is irritating people and frustrating them. What do you think?
It is, because I would say Pennsylvania is going to give you mixed signals for the next few days too.
Yeah. Yeah. Pennsylvania's going to give you miss, but you saw what I just got. I read my email to you, and this is a state mandated, state funded facility. Okay, so the YMCA is not a private entity; it's a nonprofit, so it falls under the state guidelines. And they're saying, "You're vaccinated, don't wear a mask. Don't worry about it." And they put out the statement that, you know, we have signs up all over the damn buildings, well, both buildings. We have signs up all over the place that say your social distancing and everything. You know, it's time to pull those signs. It's time to go back to, well, whatever semblance of normal there is. But it's up to you. It's up to you, if you're not vaccinated, to wear that mask. And let's face it, no one's going to do it now. No one's going to. If you're not vaccinated, you got these idiots. They're not vaccinated. They're not wearing. They're just, hey, I'm in the clear. And that's the part that bothers me. But Pennsylvania lifted it, apparently. Right? Looks that way anyhow. Or I never would have got that email.
Yeah, that's true.
I never would have got that. Now, in Wolf's credit, for the most part, I want to say 85 or 90% of the time, Governor Wolf, he did follow CDC guidelines. DeWine kind of laxed them a little bit, but I really think he was somebody who knew his state better than the CDC did. One thing that both Pennsylvania and Ohio have in common is there's a lot of empty space. Right? You take away a couple of major cities, you have a whole lot of empty space. What do we have here? You get rid of Pittsburgh and Philadelphia. What do we have here?
Your third biggest city is Erie.
Erie, right?
And that's what, 120,000 people?
Yeah, think about that. And Lawrence County's at what, 80?
88,000 for the entire county.
90. It's only 30,000 more. Right? It's not huge. That's not a whole hell of a lot of people. And I don't want to sound like I'm bitching. I'm not. I'm happy we're finally coming around, and this stuff we can honestly see the finish line now. It's been a year of hell, or 18 months of hell. I was very happy to get that email. And that's why I read it. And Frank or Lou, I want to say, we've been, and tell me if you agree with me or not, that we've been at least a little bit better off than we've been told for quite some time.
Yeah, you're right.
I do. I really think so.
You know, with the weather, you know, another reason I think they're kicking it off is the weather's improving. A lot more people are outdoors. Heat's not running, recirculating dead air.
Right.
Those are all factors they've determined help.
Yeah, I think so too. As U.S. COVID cases fall, only Pfizer's vaccine has been cleared to 12 to 15-year-olds. Only Pfizer's. Any idea why that is? Are they the only ones?
I think with all the vaccines given, I think it's in the stats that Moderna tends to make younger people more sick.
You think that's what it is?
Reaction.
We're only at 35% of the entire country that's fully vaccinated.
Pennsylvania's at 45 fully vaccinated.
Yeah, I honestly thought it was higher than that. I really did. I honestly thought we were up higher than that. I thought we were closer in the 60s. I really did. The more 76. None of the vaccines are FDA approved. Where the fuck are you coming up with that?
Out of his ass, apparently.
Apparently out of his ass. What the fuck is wrong with you?
Who do you think approved them?
Yeah, were they just and the government's just distributing them, right? Nothing's been approved. They're just distributing them. Asshole.
You know why there's no more polio, smallpox, or that kind of stuff? Because the fucking vaccines worked.
Because they work. Look it up. Look at this idiot. Look it up. Dude, go away. All right, just go away.
Send us the link because we're not wasting my time.
Yeah, I'm not even going to go bother. Look, and it better be a legitimate link, not some asshole right wing. Yes, it was emergency legislation, but it still had to be authorized and it still had to be approved. The fact of the matter is, a lot of this shit was pre-approved because it was very similar to the flu virus. Oh, come on, dude, don't be stupid. And you know the worst part, Lou, is I'm going to sit there and I'm going to get into an argument with this clown. You know, I'm going to do it. I'm actually going to sit there and get into an argument with this clown. Dude, just go away. Just, you know what? Just get off our channel altogether. Just go away. Fucking idiot. I can't believe this guy. He got me fired up for nothing. Here we are. You know, we can finally stop wearing masks, and this asshole has to piss me off. Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. We touched on Liz Cheney, Lou, you and I, a little bit.
Yeah.
And she came out flat out and said that she's going to do everything she can to make sure that that shithead doesn't run again. Yes, they've all been approved by the FDA, idiot. All right, you know what? I'm not even talking to this guy. Do you think this ousting that happened to her with these clowns who decided to turn on her? Do you think that was like the biggest mistake that they could have made?
I believe it is. I just heard a crash. I thought my neighbor was running the weed whacker and he just cut down a dead tree. Because I told him it had to be dropped into my yard. Don't worry about it.
Did he do it?
Yeah, out back, yeah.
Okay.
I said, you aren't going to get it to go the way you want except this way.
Yeah. As long as he cleans up, who cares?
Grace, am I going to have to go out and get my saw now to help him?
Yeah, you might. You might. But as long as he cleans it up, who cares? Right? Is it the one to your left?
If you're facing the house to the right, where all that's all the trees.
Okay. Well.
He's flying. Right. You know what I'll do? I'll go get the backhoe and.
Yeah, you kind of like him anyhow, so it's not that big a deal.
Yeah.
I get the feeling that they kind of kneecapped themselves with the Liz Cheney thing, because what else can you do to her now? What's left? Nothing, right? She hasn't fundraised. She hasn't made any kind of correlations with anybody. She hasn't, as far as we know, she hasn't reached out to any of the money people, the Koch brothers of the world, so to speak, right? She hasn't done any of that yet. But he decided to do this shit to her. As you and I like to say, she has no more fucks left to give.
No, she doesn't.
Why not? Why not? And how many people is she going to go after now? Especially if she can start fundraising, if she can start making money. What's left? All of a sudden, you now have a civil war in the Republican Party. You have a civil war now. What do you think? Whose chances do you like better? Whose chances do you like better?
You know what? In the long run, I'm going Liz.
Yeah, I am too. And maybe it's a bit nostalgic on my part, but I honestly want to believe that there's still a whole lot of traditional Republicans who are just being quiet, right? As opposed to these asshole MAGAs who are loud. I don't think it's a 50-50 split.
Yeah, I tend to think.
Right? And if that's the case, and she's willing to play the long game, and she has the ability to play the long game, which is probably the key. I think she's willing to. I just don't know if she has the ability to. Simply based on dollar signs. Just that simple. But if she has the ability to, I think she's going to win.
Oh, I do too. She'll get people backing her.
Yeah, I do too. I don't think she has much. I think she just has to be able to hold out. But while I disagree with almost everything she does, I think she's smart, and I think she I think she did her homework before she decided to step out against everybody like this, because this came out of nowhere, right? I mean, there were rumblings here and there, but she threw down a gauntlet.
You don't think she had big discussions with father and some of the powers that be in the background?
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. She didn't just get all pissed off and just like lose her shit over something. She's too smart for that. She thought this out. And how many times did you hear her say, we need two strong parties, right? And these MAGAs, that's not a strong party. That's only strong in their districts. That's it. It's not a strong party. Nationally, they're going to get eaten alive. Which is why I said you'll see a shift in the House and a shift in the Senate. And if McConnell has showed you anything, the power's in the Senate. Right? That's where it is. I like her chances. I do. I like her chances. I think they're a far more responsible, straight up, honest, traditional George Will, quote unquote, George Will Republicans than there are MAGAs. And I think she knows that.
Yeah,
I hope she.
And I also think in the long run with him off social media, and you know what, 10-1 tells me she has inside information on him getting arrested within a month or indicted.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think she knows a whole lot more than she's letting on.
Yeah, without a doubt. Tell me, you don't think she's connected through to the Southern District of New York?
Well, it's one hell of a limb she's going out on if she's not.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's a huge leap of faith that let's be honest, most politicians aren't willing to do.
Right.
You know? So Lou, it's a good place to start.
And she looked across there and saw Marjorie Taylor Greene and says, "No fucking way."
What was that shit with her and AOC today?
She accosted AOC while she was walking out down the stairs.
What stopped AOC from just turning around and punching her in the throat?
Probably courtesy.
No.
I think AOC issued a statement later. She says, "I used to serve idiots like that in a bar when I was a bartender. We just had them thrown out."
Yeah, you know who was throwing them out? People like me.
Yep.
I was throwing them out.
Oh, well.
Lou, let's call it a night right here. How's that sound?
All righty.
Folks, we will be back tomorrow. Tomorrow's Friday, so we will be back to finish out the week. We'll recap the week. But great day today. We turned the corner. It seems like anyhow. Lou, I'm not gonna know what to do tomorrow when I go work out. I don't have to wear a mask. I'm gonna feel naked almost. You know, it's gonna be strange.
Yep. There you go.
The abnormal became the normal.
Yep.
You know. You know what though? I'm willing to do it. I'm willing to take one for the team. Everybody watching, thank you very much. We really appreciate it. We will see you tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel. Until tomorrow, though, folks. Goodbye, good luck, and God bless.